Welcome to another episode of Crosstalk. My name is Kevin Tocci. I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. And what we try to use this particular program for, it's a vehicle for information to talk about what's going on in the two communities that we serve, Whitman and Hanson, and proud to be able to talk about any topic, whether it's upcoming events, whether it's issues. Everybody loves annual town meeting and annual elections, and that's kind of where we're focused on today. Today, we have one of the three folks who are running for school committee on the Whitman side of the ballot. We have Mr. Steve Bois. Mr. Bois?
Hi. Hi, Kevin.
How are you, my friend?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back here.
Love to have you here. And just so folks know, Steve is a gentleman who when you talk about volunteering and somebody who cares about his community, to my knowledge, has done it all from being a board member here at Whitman Hanson Community Access and helping us kind of, plant the seeds and sprout up as a nonprofit, to being a person who is on the finance committee here in Whitman, chairing it, and now a valued member of the school district, the school committee, seeking your vote come May 20th. Did I kind of encompass it correctly?
You did. You really did, and thank you very much. I go back sometimes, and May 1st comes around, town meeting comes around, and early on in May is what we call Public Service Recognition Week. And in April, there is a Volunteer Recognition Week. And I kind of connect with both, being a federal employee and been a volunteer for a number of years. And what's huge to me is just looking back at my family. Now, I've been with the federal government for 25 years, or close to. I've been at the JFK Library for 22 years. I'm the National Software Coordinator for all the presidential libraries, and it's really been an honor for me to be able to do that work and so forth. But my family's been here for 60 plus years, and sisters have come and gone, left, and I've left for a period of time to go to school and back, but it comes right back to here and how much you care about Whitman in these 7 square miles, and of course being on the Whitman Hanson Regional School Committee over the last 3 years, learned so much about the connection of two communities and us existing as one entity, almost like a third town to Whitman and Hanson. And when I say that, because we provide really all the services that we need. We do our own retirement, healthcare, payroll, snow plowing. So all of the vital things. And I learned so much from being on the finance committee. Kevin, you always take those first few, I want to say, months, maybe a couple years, to really learn the stories and hear what's going on. Because the bottom line isn't necessarily just the money, it's the people. And now people would say, well, you're saying that now because you're on the school committee and so forth. No, I've always said I'm a Republican, with a head and with a brain. I'm not going to sacrifice someone's well-being for something, or if there's a better way that we can do something. So the Republican part is secondary to me. Obviously, running as a federal employee, I can only do certain things. I can't run for a partisan office and so forth. So it's huge to me to be able to expand out and help in any way I can. I volunteered in the schools for 36 years. I often said in our school committee meetings, I've been down to, in second grade, down to help the kids who have Down syndrome and work with them with mathematics and so forth. And now with inclusion, all of those children are included. They're all part of our community. They're all part of our classes. And whatever we can do to educate these kids is really our forefront. And I strongly see that vision and message.
You kind of mentioned it in your answering my first question. Sitting across the table at one point in your career as a member of the finance committee and having, folks from the school committee and the school district come up and go, we need this. This is what we need for, as a district, for our annual assessment in order to be able to provide a proper education to the students in Whitman and Hanson. How has it come full circle for you now that you're on the other side of the table and you actually now understand both sides of the argument?
Yeah. Well, and actually I made sure I was understanding it then. But when it came down to the finances, this is what I have to work with. This is the window in which I have to work. We actually made it work one year, and I want to say it was like 2003, 2004, where we were able to give an assessment of 10% to the schools. And it came at the expense of a few in town that really, they wanted to challenge me on that, and they weren't too happy with that coming last minute. But you know, not everything is done right at the moment that you need it. You sometimes have to think and you say, hey, wait a minute, we've got an idea. Let's put this forward. And let the townspeople decide. And that's what they did. No one was out to insult or hurt or disappoint anyone. Anytime I sat, whether I sat as a member or vice chair or chairman for the finance committee in Whitman, I always sat there and always listened. And that's what you got to do. It's listening. We get two ears and one mouth, and I know I can gab a lot. But it's listening to those stories and hearing it. And we've done a lot of things. It's been amazing, the projects that we've gone through. To only think that right now we just have Whitman Hanson, and that would be paid off in just a few years. And I stood up for that during the initial things. I think a lot of people, if they remember, if they've been in town long enough, my mom was opposed to it. And so she stood up right after me, and you know, God bless her. She knew exactly what to say, but she's taken it from her standpoint and her point of view.
And it's okay.
And that's okay, and that's great to
okay.
hear. That's great to hear. There's always reasons for everything. I know the town has a lot to still accomplish. I know the schools have a lot to still accomplish. So now where do we go from there, having both backgrounds? Well, we need to reach a target share, and it's a state requirement, once again. We're happy to do that. I think we've been leaders with our high school. We've been leaders with our education programs. We do have some pushback with parents that say, you know, hey, you cut the librarians. My mom was a library aide, and she would, if she was around, she would say, you know, I remember the year that they cut the librarians, and the next year they cut us the library aides. So for me to cut a librarian or vote a budget that didn't include that, I mean, that just took me right over. And I knew that we had to find a solution. I shouldn't just say me, because there's 10 of us, and we got some of the greatest people on that school committee right now. We've had a lot of great people. You know, Bob Trotter, I've learned a lot from. He could be sitting diametrically opposed to some of my views, but you know, I've learned a lot from him, and I've learned a lot from others in the town, and including parents. Some parents would say, you know, you're not quite doing what we need, and the spending's been low in the amount of money from the town. We always manage to come up, well, how can we build a police station? How can we help the DPW? We always seem to come up with solutions. I think sooner or later we're going to come up with a solution here that's going to help us get to that target share and hopefully get us more money from the state. And
it's funny you mentioned that. This is a recent school committee meeting. I know that there were elected officials, appointed officials who represented Whitman and Hanson. The conversation was about, you know, the annual assessment for the upcoming school year, the new fiscal year budget that's going to be voted on at town meeting.
Yep.
And there was a conversation that collectively the stakeholders who were involved cannot wait until January to start piecing together the budget and continue to kick the can down the road. Give me your thoughts on that conversation.
So it's always in the back of our minds. We always have to start and think about the budget as early on as possible. We just really need to work wholeheartedly together. We are separate entities, but if we don't get our work done within, say, like the first 4 or 5 months, generally when we know what we might have for excess and deficiency come August is a big help to us to understand. I mean, I think back in the day, I didn't want to see us spend that money as a FinCom chair. I'd rather give it to you and say, all right, here you go, start with this, instead of taking out what you might need further down the road, because you're dependent on yourselves for the whole year.
Right.
Us, the school committee is as the overseers of that. I'm all for the more we can communicate. I'm all for the more we can give a chance to meet with each other. We're stakeholders. In my work in the line of duty as a software coordinator at all the presidential libraries, they're stakeholders. They're my stakeholders.
Right.
So how can I work to help them? These folks are all stakeholders, whether they're the kids, whether they're the parents, the citizens. We're all stakeholders in this. So I would strongly, go for the sooner we can talk with anything, the better.
I know that a couple of things that were printed in the local paper, the Whitman Hanson Express, that there was a lot of conversation at that committee that you once were prominent at, and there were thoughts bandied about as to deeper cuts on the municipal side to better suit and help things on the educational side. Give me your thoughts on being able to have that balance and realize that you can't totally rob from Peter to pay Paul.
Right. The town manager is going to, the town administrator, and I enjoy Mr. Lynham very much. I've been a friend of his for over 20 years. He's going to tell it like it is in his world, in his picture. But I still envision, we're not printing out money, but we have ways to look at this and say, we don't want to see the municipal side cut by any means. So let's work on a way that we can both come out in an even keel. I think we ended up this year, fortunately, through a few, I think it was a total of $300,000 maybe per town, that we were able to reassess a few numbers that we had and lower our assessment to the town. And not normally would we do that, but we're still breaking out like we were getting the original assessment. And that was what a key factor was in making the decisions for that assessment. No, I wouldn't, I mean, I've got to get out, I've got to drive out and get out on the road too to go to work, when it's snowing. I got to have my rubbish picked up as well. No one is looking to totally annihilate the town budget by any means.
Right.
There are still things within our town budget that I think we can do better. I'm not the manager of that. I mean, if I was to mention something, it's only because I'm mentioning it. We get a bill for our trash, but we also put $1 million+ towards waste disposal through Article 2. What's the balance there? Why do we get like sort of the double whammy? And I'm not putting it out there for anyone to make a rash decision or anything. I'm sure it's something that's been thought about. And are we in a circumstance that we need to rethink it? It's always a chance to rethink and replan. And you're going after, speaking with your executive director here, a vision. You're always going after a vision. And that vision's out there. And it's out there with the people. And it's out there with the community. And it's out there with the children's education. And I saw last night at Marcello's a young man that I recognized, couldn't remember the name. So I went up and I said, "Hi, Steve Bois. I know you from somewhere." And he was with his dad. He's just graduating Bridgewater State College. He now lives in Whitman, him and his dad. He is getting ready to go on to teach. He was in the 5th grade class that I volunteered in at the time at Indian Head. And to see him and know that this is a 10 or 11-year-old and his other classmates that I used to take to the computer lab and say, wow, he's going on to teaching. And he's starting out with a long-term substitute position. And he's going to go from there. Because everyone loves the challenge and the responsibility and the work and your building skills, whether they know it every single day or not. The young people around me, I always tell them that. You're a hard worker and you're building skills. All my nieces and nephews are in their early 20s. They're all hardworking and they're all continually building skills.
Talk to me about your proudest moments during the term that you're finishing up now.
Sure.
And if you're reelected come May 20th, what goals you may set for yourself or what you'd like to achieve in the next 3 years?
I think some of the proudest moments, you can say the kids who have come forward. I think our last meeting or the meeting before, we had the 2nd graders come forward. And my gosh, the programs that they had worked on and their presentations and them speaking to a bunch of adults, it was just amazing. I mean, it really puts a lump in your throat. But I think some of my proudest moments have been every single time that I've been able to represent, and I've been at our meetings. And I go with the North River Collaborative as a representative there in the Pilgrim Area Collaborative, which gives our students that we may not be able to educate within Whitman and Hanson still that same opportunity. they're all been a combination of proud moments, Kevin. And I really probably couldn't signal out one. And going forward, I look to continue those proud moments because I want to see us continue to evolve in a great way that we can expand our programs and offer the kids that 21st century education.
I'm going to go back to your wheelhouse again, talking finances. And I feel that it's a common theme and a common conversation that I'm stealing a page out of your chairman's book because it was something that he had brought up during one of his interviews with a candidate running for selectman and has used that theme. And it kind of dawned on me because, again, I'm somebody who's in the media and I have covered enough Prop 2.5 overrides and heard repeatedly how difficult it is financially to be able to every year figure out that financial pie. Give me your thoughts on Prop 2.5. Is it a good model or is it time for modification?
Well, it's you can always look at something and reassess it. The bottle bill, is the bottle bill still relevant today? I mean, or should it be expanded? Or what should we do? Should you even drink out of a plastic bottle so that, and I'll keep the name turned and everything. It goes along, I think it just goes along with our society and our understanding of where we want to be. I don't think necessarily Prop 2.5 has to go away. But maybe it is time to modify it.
Maybe like a Prop 3, Prop 3.5 maybe?
Yeah, maybe. And it's something that is going to be sustainable and not hurt those that are needy.
Fixed incomes
and hopefully we still have those programs in place that, be it through the veterans, through the seniors, and I haven't been involved that much in unfortunately. I am also president and trustee of the Colebrook Cemetery Association. I don't want to go that far, but as people get along in life, no one wants to hurt them. One of the great things, my mom was always able to live as an independent person and do her own thing, but it wouldn't have been easy for her to do it all by herself.
Right.
And those kind of things still play on me. I've always had a strong suit for the seniors in town. I always want to make sure that they're getting what they're supposed to be getting and not, is 3.5 going to be too much for them or something? Right. So you don't want to overplay it. But there is something that's still missing. We can't grow much with new growth in this town from what I can see, other than maybe rebuilding and so forth. But, because we're only 7 square miles and what are we to do? And this is going back in the hat that I used to wear. I don't know. The exact answer probably just needs to be studied. Just like education reform of 1993 probably needs to be reviewed.
Sure.
Just like, even our regional agreement. Yeah, let's look at a few things. Are a few things outdated? And we probably, if I was still on the board here, would probably do the same thing. Hey, it's been 8, 10, 12 years. Do we need to reassess and relook at things? And also, I think that's why, we have a strategic plan with the schools. I know that with the collaboratives, too. We're working on one with Pilgrim area. We're working or have one for North River Collaborative. And I did hear one gentleman, Sean Kane, mention that, how about one for the town? And I know we've always had a capital plan. We've always had different inferences. But it's once again that vision to look out and say, well, we want to be there someday. How do we get there? What do we need to do? And not hurt the people that really depend on the town or a lower tax rate or something to get by.
How about as far as the legislative and the folks who legislate up at the State House in regards to things like unfunded mandates and ways to be able to get, last year at this time, your legislative delegation of Josh Cutler and Jeff Deal were able to find a way to elevate the per pupil amount.
Yep, 70 signatures.
Yeah.
I think we need to, and maybe we need to do this as a school committee, maybe we need to take a road that investigates things like that. What can be done with these state mandates? Can we go back, can we form some sort of group that kind of takes that on and puts it in the public eye? And I know Josh and Jeff can only bring back so much to the table, and they do a great job for both communities and for the regional school district. But what can we do, saying maybe to set I don't know, maybe it's mandated that we have a Chromebook in front of every student.
Sure.
Okay, then help us understand how we can get there.
Right.
Because it is, and there would be something that would probably be unfunded if it didn't have some sort of legislation attached to it that would give it the funds. Even meet us part way. What can we do? We do it with school building assistance. The towns are met part way. I don't know what the percentage is these days, but we've been through some really good times with that.
It's not as robust as it once was.
No, it's not. It's not. But it did have its moments. It did have its time. And you never know. I mean, right now, maybe there's a lull. Maybe there's not that much need because so many, in the 2000s, so many school districts took advantage and so forth. And it was also good to hear a lot of that the state held getting paid off early. And I think that all trickled down to help all of us. And it might even be helping us to pay off Whitman Hanson early. It's pretty amazing not to have that much out there as far as outside expenses or one-time expenses. You don't see that. And maybe that's the A+ that gives us the opportunity to say, okay, now we need to do this in the operations fashion. Now we need to do this with bringing back foreign languages, with bringing back, geez, I remember learning French in middle school. I mean, and this isn't about me. It's not about me going back to when I went to middle school, because I went to the same middle school that's standing there. But to say, yeah, I do remember us having those, and not to be able to provide some of those things right now, it can be a little bit bothersome. And you want to know, what can you do to get there? All right, we got an A+ because we've kept our capital spending down. But we're down here in the D range with our, providing foreign languages. Can we do something? It's sometimes apples and oranges, unfortunately, because it's one-time spending versus recurring expenses.
Right.
But I think we can manage a lot more, and I think we can tackle state mandates, maybe to say unfunded ones, maybe to say, can we do something? Do we have a line? Obviously people don't want that tag of being taxed in Massachusetts more, but there's got to be a better way to pay for some of these things.
I know that the school committee race is not like the sexy race like selectmen or running for state rep or running for governor, but you know what? It has its place and importance.
Yes.
What do you feel are the prime? Are there any prime issues in your particular race?
Probably the prime issues is just making sure that we understand, because we got a great parent group that comes forward and has been at a lot of our meetings, making sure that we understand not only what they're bringing and seeing if we can help, and if it's something that we can include in oh yeah, well, we didn't realize such and such was happening, or all the other parents that are out there. It's certainly not limited to one group or a few individuals or anything. Anyone that's out there, just getting an understanding and continuing to get an understanding. Not to say that we don't, but to continue getting an understanding. I think that's one of the biggest things. Educating outside of the schools, and that would be for anyone that, took me a long time to learn the whole finance committee thing. It's taken me a while to come up to speed with the whole school committee thing, even though I have known a lot of it. I didn't want to go in there like a know-it-all and just start to make decisions. I still wanted to hear the stories and learn and get the perception of what we need to know and what we need to do. So I think some of the biggest issues probably are just keep communicating, and not that we haven't, again. Keep moving forward to see if we can do the best at the best cost. And I don't think this race, even though it might not be quote-unquote sexy, maybe it's that I think we're fortunate that people want to take an interest and step up. And it's just like with anything, whether you're running for a planning board, whether you're running for any other office in town, you want to make a difference. I work at the JFK Library, been there 22 years this Sunday, and I'm working under the roof of the president who wanted people to make a difference. And I think that's what's key.
Okay. We've probably just got about 5 minutes left here.
Right.
Is there a question I haven't asked you in regards to you're seeking another term, but you feel it's kind of important and you have a chance to share and say to our viewers here at Whitman Hanson Community Access?
Whether it's a question or not, Kevin, and thank you very much, and thanks to our executive director and our folks that are helping out. Talk about your visions. This place has really come a long way since I've sat on the board and even have done candidate shows back in the 2000s and so forth. But what is it that may not have been asked that I want to share? I've been in this town, as I mentioned, for most of my life. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the volunteering. I enjoy the opportunity to give young people that chance. I had a situation this morning where I think someone misunderstood me in knowing how I present myself and want to see those young people aspire to something. And what really drives me home is seeing that success, like I did at Marcello's last night, seeing that success of a person, just one, or any individual. I've been Facebook friends with a couple of graduating students from Whitman Hanson, and just to see the growth that they go through and the different things that they take on in their lives, it's just so rewarding, because whether it's a school committee race, whether it's a selectman's race, no matter what you're running for, you made a tiny difference there. And hopefully that can continue. I want to continue with going on and helping the schools in any way possible, obviously. But you know what? And I asked for the voters to come out on May 20th, and I asked for your vote, and I'm very honored to have your vote. If that's that one chance I'm not reelected, I'm going to find myself something to do, because I love this town and I love the community.
If you're reelected, if we look at the bucket list, do you feel that full-day kindergarten is something that can be achieved in the next couple of years?
Yes, and it should be, because we're not doing ourselves any favor by not. And the reason we're not doing ourselves any favor, and some people may say on the critical side, well, what if it leads to full-day preschool or whatever? Do you know, our kids just need to be involved. And it's got the social, it's got the emotional, the educational, the intellectual. It's got so many impacts to it. And if we don't involve them early on, we all know about children, how young they are. I just been to a baby shower in November, and the young lady had her baby in February that I know. And that young person, that young man, is already evolving into, what is he adapting to? What is he learning? We have to go back and think that far ahead for our kids, because we want them to come in and have the best tools and the best resources. So it's not just about what they get in the classroom, it's about leading up to when they are in that 1st through 6th grade, or 6th through 8th, and then 9th through 12th. Kindergarten, it's not the same that it used to be. It's such an important and integral part, and I think we need to do everything we can to make that happen for our kindergarten age kids. It's just so important.
What are you doing to promote your re-election campaign? Do you have a
here
Facebook
we go.
website?
I didn't do a Facebook or a website. I have signs. I actually had, as a federal employee, I can run for a nonpartisan office, but it can't become partisan if someone was to give me money from a particular party or something. So I even had to find out about Thursday, May 4th, which I got the clearing from our general counsel to be a part of. And that's going to be a wonderful event as well. I thank Brian Bazanson and Larry Roach for co-sponsoring it with their committees.
Joint venture.
Joint venture, exactly. And I'm always across the table. That's another thing. I don't just sit on one side. I'm always across the table. I mentioned Bob Trotter early on. Tom Evans has always been a big influence to me. There's quite a few people on both sides of the aisle that I'm more than happy to associate with and to work with and to be with. But as far as the campaign, I no website, no. I mean, if you want to look me up,
put
Steven
a phone
Bois.
number up there. Or what do you?
Oh,
we want to put some
if you
information
want to
up
call
this way.
me, yeah, 781-447-4719. Steven Bois at gmail.com, all one word, StevenBois. The Bois is back in town, I guess. I don't know. Nope, so wrong inclusion of the word boy.
A little Thin Lizzy going on. Wow.
It sounded like it, didn't it?
It did.
But
indeed.
yeah, I mean, and all of that is public. It's posted. I also got a Whitman Hanson account, Steven.Bois at WHRSD.org. All that's posted on the Whitman Hanson webpage, my phone number and anything. Anytime anyone wants to reach out to me. I know elections are important. And people are important in those elections to make the decision. So I thank them and ask for their vote.
Stephen,
Kevin, thank you very much.
thank you for coming in.
Thanks a lot.
And I want to thank you folks for tuning in to Whitman Hanson Community Access, tuning in to Crosstalk, bringing on any of the programs that we have here. Remember, it's up to you to get out there and make a difference, whether it's at town meeting, whether it's at the town elections. You make the decisions. Get out there and vote, especially for the town election on May 20th, Town Hall from 9 to 5. That's it from here. Until next time, have a great day.